Hello, everyone. Anything to anybody?
Hello.
Hello. All right. Yeah, my sister. I'm actually living with my sister right now in Concord. The and she loves going out to Arizona. Her daughter was at one of the Arizona schools there and hadn't had any exposure to it. She loves the weather out there and the landscape.
you
Yeah,
know, you know
she's
why?
insane.
Because she lives. This is how life is.
Yeah,
She loves the Arizona weather
yeah.
because she lives in New Hampshire where she freezes her butt off and comes to hell in the summer and goes, you know what? Thank God I'm not freezing. I
Good
want to
point.
tell you something about here.
Yeah,
We live here. Around 6 years ago, we took a walk from our house to the rack, which is where we had a gym membership. You know, I mean, it's got to be a block, 2 blocks. We cut through this thing. We go there. Martha gets heat stroke on the way. We don't know it. She's exercising on those machines. She's not sweating. She thinks this is great. Boy, she's even going. She comes back, starts hallucinating. All hell breaks loose. Now, that doesn't happen to everybody, but you can tell your sister that. And sometimes this is the most wonderful place, and other times it's just horrific. And sometimes New Hampshire is just absolutely, I'm sure, beautiful. And sometimes it's like, when this is going to stop.
yeah. Well, she's a doctor, so I'll have to tell her about that story.
Sure.
Man, oh man. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like 1-2 punch, right?
Sure.
So it's like the universe is throwing the kitchen sink at me this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You know,
so I had a plan. I was going to go to Mexico, and then that's why I'm still in New Hampshire. So it's life is what happens when you're making other plans.
when I saw that sign, I was living in Marin County, 1982. Nice little house. All right. And there's a knock at my door. And it's my next door neighbor across the street. I never met her before, never talked to her, but I'd seen her. All right. I opened the doors around 11 o'clock at night. And she said, somebody told me that your house is under surveillance. And I said, really? She said, yes. And I said, would you like to come in? She said, I was told we shouldn't speak in your house. You want to come over to my house? So she lived across the street, the next house up. We go in, never been to her house before, never talked to her before. And she says, you want anything to drink? And I go, no, well, just some water. It's just sinks over there. So I go over to the sink to get a glass of water. And I see a sign above her sink. Life is what happens. What did you say? There it was. That's what it was. So Marin County being what it is, she tells me how she heard this and the circumstances and blah, blah, blah. And she thought she should warn me. All right. And she said she'd been at a birthday party and somebody knew of this back in the 80s, Marin County. All right. We're all of a certain age. And not all of us are of a certain type, but she was. And so she thought she should do the neighborly thing and warn me about somebody had heard that this house that they thought was hers because the address and the number was under surveillance. That's what they told her. But it wasn't her address. It's close to it. So she came over and told me. And she says, is your house clean? And I go, no. She says, how long do you think it'll take you? I said, hour and a half. She said, all right. An hour and a half, I'm going to be behind your property. Meet me there. We'll get rid of everything. Sort of a neighborly family thing to do in Marin County at that time. But that's when you said those words. That's when I saw them. Okay. 81. That's 40 years ago. All right. And I've had a very strange life. Okay. And the reason why I have faith, David, is that things have happened to me in such a way while my back was against the wall, while I was dangling over the cliff. All right. When it all did come down, because it didn't come down then, it came down around 3 years later. Whole thing crashed down on me. And I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I'm in San Francisco County Jail. I mean, this is big time. This made the newspapers. Okay. And I called up. In fact, when my neighbor told me about that time, I went and called a lawyer, I think. Okay. Penny Cooper. Now, if you want to go Google on YouTube or Google it, you can write Penny.
You wrote about her in your book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wrote about her in my book. And I had met Penny in 1967.
Was she really a lesbian?
Yeah.
Oh, because you talked about flirting with her girlfriend.
Yeah, that was a novel. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't flirt with a girlfriend. That was the novel I wrote.
Oh, okay.
So she wasn't the Penny, but you're right. She was the one in the book, but I used a different name. This is the real story. You're talking about the novel. I met Penny in 1967. I'm living in Haight-Ashbury. And these people down below got busted. Just low-level shit. Driving through Berkeley, cop pulled them over, frisked them. The guy had a pocket knife in his pocket, and busted. So we go over there for the trial. 1967. 60s. Berkeley. All right. And he's got no money. So he's got a public defender. This girl comes out and basically puts the cop on the stand and turns him inside out, David. I mean, I'd never seen anybody do this before. This was like stunning. I mean, David, it's like if she asked you to give your name and you did, and then she turns to the jury and said, the question that you should be asking yourself is, why did he lie to us just now? And you'd given her the right name, and everybody's looking at you. Why did you lie to us? That's how good she was. Now, it was an illegal search and seizure. All right, true. But by the time she was done with them, the case was thrown. I went up to her and I said, you're like Penny, you're like Nancy Drew on Reds. All right, I was stunned. Okay. She has gone to law school 1 year before me. And I had dropped out. Okay. She was just starting her career as a public defender. She became legendary. And I said, listen, I don't know what I can do, but I'm running the food concessions, the Avalon Ballroom. We got Janis Joplin, Grateful Dead. She says, no, I don't go to that, but my brother does. So I gave her brother tickets. So that's how I met Penny, 1967. Then a few years later, I meet up with somebody else, big time. He's a smuggler. He's already living under an assumed name. They got warrants out. And he says, I'm going to go see my lawyer. And we go over, and who is it? Penny. Wow. We meet again. All right. So when I got into the business, I began getting worried. Sort of like your best friend is a cancer doctor, a brain cancer doctor, and you ever think a headache you have is it's because you got brain cancer. Well, when that neighbor of mine came over in 1981 or 82, I went to go see Penny. All right. We talked it over. Penny said, she said, Darryl, If anything happens, you've got my phone number. Tell them to call me. They've got my phone number too. All right. So 85, the roof comes down. Huge bust. They sandwiched me in between a Colombian drug deal to go after him. Got no money. All right. I'm in San Francisco County Jail. And the Colombian, I heard later, wanted Penny to be his lawyer. She was top of the food chain. This is the top of the food chain, San Francisco. All right. And we all knew who the big guns were. Okay. And friends of mine went to see Penny. And you know what Penny did? She went to the court, David, and asked to represent me on court appointment at $60 an hour. I knew somebody who paid her $2 million. That's why I have faith. That's why, that's only one of the reasons. But that would, after being hung out to dry, after finding myself in situations, I have found out that I've taken care of over the years. And at this time, watching what we're going through now, I am more confident about my future in my life than I was when I was 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70 years of age. Because of things like that. All right? And you don't learn those things reading a book or hear somebody talk. You learn them because of what you go through in your life and the choices you make and what happens to you. And over the course of time, I have learned that we are taken care of, all of us, even the ones that I find myself on the opposite side of the chessboard. And I tell you, David, there's a whole lot of people on the opposite side of my chessboard. And I know that I'm not the one in charge of what happens to them. Thank God. And I know they're not the ones in charge of what happens to me. Thank God. And when I use the word God, I use it with absolute reverence. Absolute reverence and faith. And so that's really what you can't, I can only tell you what has gotten me through this. There was a book that you might be interested in your situation right now, because it gave me a whole lot of solace back in those days. I mean, Penny did become my lawyer. All right. And one day I got a call from Penny saying that she had to see me. The feds had made an offer. So I was working at a gold mine in Nevada at the time. And I flew back. All right. And Penny, I drove to Berkeley to see Penny. Penny said, they made an offer. I said, what is it? Well, if we plead guilty, they'll only give you 20 years. And I said, really? That's sort of like in promising, if I promise to stand still, they'll only shoot below my waist. And Penny said, I can't recommend that we take this. And so we didn't. A few months later, Penny said, they're offering 10. And she said, I'm ready to go to court there. I'll go tomorrow. But if we do and we lose, they're going to try and hurt you. And we took the 10. And you know what? It was the best thing that happened. Not that it wasn't funny, but I learned things in there in myself. To me, prison was a monastery I never would have chosen on my own. Ever. And in the monastery, you learn things that you don't learn on the outside. And I know that most people going to prison is the worst thing that ever happened. But for me, it wasn't. And if I had to do this life again, I would let it stay in the mix. But going into it, you never would have gotten an assent from me to do it. But on the back end, and that's how it is. My life is not the same as everybody else's. But I know that the life in me is the same as everybody else's. That's why the advice that I have isn't necessarily any advice that you or anybody else should take. But I do know, David, that the life in you is the life in me. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I'm saying that in times that are just nothing but full of doubt. And there's a book you might want to get. It was called, that I read at that time, it was called God Calling. And I told my friend Marshall about it. And he said, you know, that was on Bucky Fuller's nightstand when he died. All right. And it was a series of messages to two women, I think, during the Great Depression. And this book, God Calling, is sort of a bestseller in all these Christian bookstores. And I really have an attitude about Christian bookstores. All right. But there it is, because they only take what's in the Bible, except they read this and it made its way even to them, who closed the door to the light except for the crack that they got through. The crack that they saw is their light. You know what one of my sayings about born again Christians is this: saying you're born again doesn't mean that you are. Yearning, however, is a good place to start. So if that's their path, take it. And I wish them luck on it. But they got that door cracked open only a little. For a reason. Because they're afraid of what would happen if they opened it anymore. And if the crack is all they can get, so be it. So be it. I see people walking around on this planet, David, and they put God in the box. A little lunch pail. The box says Mormon, Seventh-day Adventist, Southern Baptist, Fundamentalist Muslim, Orthodox Jew. Fine. If that's where you're going to put God in the box, that's what you got God in the box. And if that's meant to carry you through here, then keep carrying it. But I know God ain't that box. I know. They don't. And I may be deluded. But maybe I'm not. But I'm all right with how things are now. I'm all right with the chaos that's going on right now. Because my life was such that it was ripped under my feet when I dropped acid in the 1960s. It went from apparent certainty into total uncertainty. The certainty is what we've got in our mind of our picture of reality. And when you take psychedelics, it's gone. It's gone. You know it's a construct. Now, how do you live with this in this reality, knowing it's only a construct? Well, carefully. Carefully. And at that time, many in our generation who were there started meditating, because it led us to the same place that your proverb led you to. And we found that the only place, the way to make it through, is inside. And it's not a belief system, it's an experience. Now, your belief may lead you to that experience. And I hope it does. I hope it does. Because if you're sincere, it will. And if you're not, it won't. And a whole lot of people on that path are full of shit.
I think you already said it. It's you have to find inner peace. If you're not good here,
you're not going to be good there.
Yeah.
You know, one of my friends in prison made a crack, and he didn't make it up. But I never forgot what he said. Wherever I go, he goes too.
Hey, I'm guilty as charged, Darryl.
We all are. We come in here with that. Fighting our way out of that, David, is the universal fight. And at a certain point, the fight becomes more like a dance, theoretically. But as I said in my book, God taught me to dance by shooting at my feet. It wasn't a particularly elegant way to learn, but that's, I did get better at it.
Well, I have a Post-it note. Well, I start with Post-it notes, and one of them I had for a year because I had to improve on my patience. So I take a Post-it note and I write patience, and I
Patience
see it every day.
every day.
And
You
then
see-
yeah,
What I've said about life, David, is the only thing that's asked of us is to follow the cue cards. And you gave yourself a cue card. Now, the truth is, it takes us a long time to actually recognize the cue cards. And that's only the beginning. Then we got to follow it. And then when we're done with that Post-it note, we get another one, and another one, and another one.
yeah. And then I realized where I probably am my weakest, Darryl, because I am a mean son of
Yep.
is compassion and kindness.
That's it.
I struggle with it.
David, that's the cue card. See, you're on the path. You're getting it. What is between us and what we want is what we've got to work on. All right? And everybody has a different cue card. Now, some people have the same cue cards. All right? And many don't. And many of the people who you're up against, that's their cue card too. Kindness and compassion. And you find yourself up against them. And you have no idea that they're trying to work on that same thing. Or they're not. Because it doesn't matter what anybody else is working on. The only thing that matters, David, is what you're working on. That's the only thing that matters to you. Is to work on what you're working on. Now, I may be wrong, but I don't think so. I think the DNA of life is love. I think it created all of us, saints and sinners alike. And the judgment of who we are, we've all got, who we call the saint and the sinner. But that's our judgment. And we've all been told the consequence of judging. We've all been told. And someday we'll give it up. Someday.
Well, it takes a very
Most of us
special-
continue.
Yeah.
Most of us continue to judge because we think it makes the world better. We think our judgments make us better than those around us because we've got better judgments. And didn't the good book say, judge not, lest ye be judged also? End of sentence.
Yeah, it's like you said before. I mean, how many are willing to put somebody else ahead of them if it means you're left behind? That's a rare person.
Well, you know what? We'll only do that, David, when we know by putting them in front of us, we're further ahead. That by doing so, we gain by it. It's a fool's game if that's the way it was set up. To be behind when you're being kind to someone else. It's a fool's game, but that's not the game at all. The real game is knowing that when you do that, you get further ahead too. That's the game. But you have to punch through that other thing.
Oh, it's hard. It's
Of
hard.
course it's hard.
Oh, it's hard.
If it was easy, it'd be easy.
I'm still failing most days at this.
David.
Yeah. I'm just being honest.
I used to say Free will is the spit on which we're all being roasted. And it's turning real slow. But you know what? When you're done, you're done. And until you are, you aren't. I've learned that my resistance is probably the determinant of the hardness of the lessons that I encounter. That's what they said, is your weakness is your strength, and your strength is your weakness. And there's a reason for that.
Can I read you something here?
Sure.
It's I'm going to share the screen with you. Now, can you see this?
Yeah.
So this is actually one of the best verses in the Bible that I get a lot of peace from. And it helps put things in perspective for me. Maybe it won't work for somebody else. Do you see where it says, do not worry?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Matthew book 6,
Sure.
verse 25 through 27. It
Yeah,
says,
this is a Sermon on the Mount. This is a Sermon on the Mount.
yeah. Is that
But
what
you know
it's
why
called?
we worry?
Yeah.
Because we live in an apparent uncertainty. But it's like we live on the plantation of fear. That's what we live on, the plantation of fear. And living on the plantation of fear and finding out that there's no reason to worry is the hardest lesson of all. Because the fear that you have to overcome is your own. It's no one else. There's plenty of people that are going to shove it in your face, David. Let me assure you. But whether we accept that is up to us. And whether we believe it is up to us. And that's what I've seen happen in these last 3 years in this country. Everybody's got a serving of fear. We're at the buffet of paranoia and fear. And some people are going back for seconds and thirds. And they're trying to get you onto it all. And if you don't go with them, they call you fearful. They say, look at you, you're trying to make me afraid. And I'm saying, hey, all I say is, if you do that, shit's going to happen. Why are you going to make me afraid? Why are you a fear monger? But you know what? I don't go out of my way to talk to anybody. I don't go out of my way to talk to anybody, David. Because I know you can't convince anybody of anything. You know, you were the one who dug me up. You know, and I see people, but I understand fear. Fear is virulent.
The biggest
Fear
demotivator.
is worse than gonorrhea at a wife swapping event. You know? I mean, it's the common denominator that people react to. And what was true when Matthew wrote these words, or when any light was given to anybody, is true. I mean, one of the things that, I forget who was that Eastern guru said, what, me worry? Or Mayor Baba, don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Well, let me tell you something, Dave. Somebody who can say that with a straight face is pretty much enlightened to me. Pretty much fucking has seen the light. And there are little pricks who said, well, if he doesn't profess his love of Jesus Christ as the only begotten Son of God, then he ain't good enough for me. Fine. Go for it, homie. Go for it. Go for it. To me, if you're able to say those words, don't worry, be happy, that person has achieved a measure of understanding. Now, it ain't maybe my path, or the way I'm supposed to. But I'm the biggest asshole in the world if I think that unless he goes at that path the way I am, that he don't know shit. That's the danger of being on the path, David, is believing the bullshit that is the path for others. But if it's your path, do it. That's what Don Juan told Carlos Castaneda about paths. He said, you know, Carlos, he said, there are many paths. But if it doesn't have love, don't take it. And a lot of those people have stripped, even though the Christ came here and only talked of love. Let me tell you my personal experience of those people who say they're Christians. There ain't love in their hearts. They've got guilt and shame. And I wish them the best of luck, baby.
Yeah, those
I
are
wish
powerful.
them the best of luck. But that's what I see. A lot of guilt, a lot of shame, and a lot of fear.
Yeah, well, when you get to an end of the paradigm, you're going to have a lot of people
grabbing. No, I understand it.
Everything was a lie. Now they're like, oh my God, what am I doing?
They're scared. And I understand. And I understand. That's why the last line of my book, are you ready for the thing called love? And my little statement, some are, some aren't. Good luck. You know? And I know that the God of all loves every bit. That's what it said. But we can only take so much. You know, if you keep squinting your eyes, you're only going to see so much light. And if you won't open your eyes at all, you ain't going to see shit, even though you'll hear the words. You know? But everybody's in a different place. Everybody's in a different space. The only thing we share is the time right now. The only thing we share is the venue. The only thing we share is the moment. All of us are coming at it in different ways. And I understand how this last year has been to you. It's tough. No one has it easy here. No one has it easy here.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the guys who interviews me, David, and I'm interviewed by very few people these days, he's had a life that makes mine seem like a cream puff, like a walk in the park. And I did 7 years in prison. All right. I mean, when the roulette table looked like a pinball machine, I was never going to win. And his life, I would not want to go through. But I tell you, he's made it. I know he's the real thing. And he doesn't even, what do I mean by the real thing? I know his path of pain and suffering. He honors it. Honors it. And it's a path I'm glad I didn't take. But he honors it. And I honor him for honoring it. And so we're all here. We're all here at this time. But like I say, you might want to check out that book, God Calling. Wonderful little book.
Yeah, I will.
You know what it said?
Yeah.
You know what I remembered from that time? It said, I'm waiting I have no idea whether this is before they offered me the 20 years to plead guilty. All right. And I'm reading that book and it says this. It's like you're on a ship, on the deck of a ship. The waves go up, you're looking up. The waves go down, you think you're going to sink. You have no idea what's going to happen. He said, listen, I'm the captain of my ship. Give me tomorrow. Give me tomorrow. And listen to me today.
I think Zoom's going to kick us off here.
All right. As well they should.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We're going to have to, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So, well, hey, listen, let's not wait till 6 months next time.
Yeah, no, you know where to find me.
Yeah, and if there's anything I can do for you, let me know.
Well, I got a new website up.
Okay,
The other
go ahead.
one went down for 3 months.
What is it?
It's the same address,
Okay.
www.drschoon.com.
All right. I'll make sure I put that up as a link. Hi, everybody. Today I talk with Darryl Schoon, and I haven't talked to him in several months. It was time to reach out. He's a great guy, has a lot of information, and he just updated his website, which is www.drschoon. Okay. And let me just share the screen here and I'll go to it. It's nice to see that he's actually posting again as well. And he said he's in the process of finishing up a new book. This is his last posting on May 6th, I believe. So you can go and get updates from him. And you'll see he's got quite a few articles there, actually May 22nd. He even has the fear and greed index. It's good stuff. With everything going on, it's always nice to get an update from Darryl, see what he has to say. Darryl has a lot of opinions like us all, and he's got a lot of history and experience. And he's also a philosopher at heart, I think. And so we tend to go off on a tangent. And I think it's great. The conversation takes us where it goes. So I'm going to break this into either 2 or 3 sections because it's easier for the uploads and the processing times. If you have questions for Darryl, go to his website, interact with him, and tell him hello. And that's it. Enjoy. Peace.